What's going on YouTube? It's Ken here and welcome to today's video. So I did end up just landing a junior system administration role, and I did get it without having a college degree in computer science, a college degree in information technology or cybersecurity, or essentially anything in information technology related. If you're interested in how I got to this role and got the opportunity to take it, watch through the video because I'm going to go through the step-by-step process leading up to the interview process, why I think they chose me over the other candidates, and maybe you could pull something from this video if you're in a similar situation and you're trying to get into IT, and hopefully you can find something useful because that is the overall goal. So if that sounds good to you, then pause the video and go grab your favorite snack really quick, grab some water and stay hydrated, and definitely stick around. So if I were you right now, sitting behind your monitor or your phone watching this video, I would say, who the heck is this guy and how did he land a job with no educational background? And although it's true that I don't have anything in IT, degree-wise, what I do have that I think is probably more important than that is I was able to get some experience under my belt. So at the college I went to, I was actually our help desk for our IT department for around 3 years, from my sophomore year up until I was graduating my senior year. And then by then we actually had an open tech position, and then I became a field tech for about another 2 or 3 years. So I have technically a total of like 5 to 6 years experience in help desk slash field technician work. Really, I was just doing help desk like 10 to 12 hours a week because for some reason when you're a student working at your college, they only give you like 10 hours to work. So I was doing it just as some extra income, but little did I know I was going to turn this into a total career swap from what I was originally studying. So I did dupe you a little bit. So even though I don't have the education, I did have some experience, which I'm going to say I think is huge as to why I was able to get this job. Because I'm going to tell you everything that I got exposed to that's going to be involved in my new job. So essentially, I just gave you the quick TLDR or speed run of my IT career in a nutshell. And I am going to go more in depth into my kind of role as a help desk, into how that became a field technician kind of gig. But that's going to be for another video for sure, because in this one you guys want to know about my current gig that I'm starting up pretty soon, and I definitely want to tell you. In fact, I did some work on the side, and I kind of have my top 6 methods slash qualities of what I did as soon as I got an email about scheduling a time for the interview, up to the point where they gave me a call saying that I got the job. I think these 6 things that I did and 6 things that I'm gonna focus on is what really helped the most, and maybe you can pull something from that when you're trying to get into this career or if you're looking for something yourself. And this can apply to anything, outside of IT, but I know in IT this is definitely what some recruiters and people are looking for. So these are in no particular order, except for number 1. I do think that my number 1 is the most important thing that I did. But we're going to go ahead and start with number 6, which is if the job site is local and you have the option to have your interview in person or online, go for the in-person interview. So this might not be something that's relatable if you're looking for remote positions, but if you're someone who's looking for a hybrid role or an on-site role and you have that option, go for the in-person one. And I'm going to be straight up, it's because they can size you up and down and because they can see you and talk to you in person. Not saying that you can't dress up nicely remotely for your interview and you can't be yourself and they can't, get a good first impression over the webcam, but it's the fact that they gave you the option of the either or, and to be comfortable in your home environment and not have to drive, as opposed to having to go to them and learn kind of the environment you're going to and learning the location and possibly being surrounded by people in person rather than in your house on a phone call. they should notice that, because I definitely feel like they noticed that for mine. When I interviewed, I had 4 people that were around me, and they all asked me questions, and it was all in person. And I had that option to kind of do it remotely, but I did it in person, and I think they appreciated that. And that first kind of impression that you put on them, if it's with you going above and beyond and showing that you want to be a part of their team and learn their culture and learn their campus or their headquarters, and that is a pretty good first step in the right direction. So this is my advice for number 5, which is pulling out keywords within the job description. So this one's kind of self-explanatory, but it definitely was one that granted me a lot of success. But it's not just pulling out the keywords, it's what I did with them. So let's go ahead and skip ahead. And I crafted my resume, and then on the job description, I put the keywords that I saw on there onto my resume, right? And then that gave me the opportunity for an interview. They called me, we set a time, and then now I had X amount of days, whatever I set the date for the actual interview to learn what I needed to understand on the job description. So really quick, I'm gonna pull the job description that I had for this job, and then we're gonna kind of compare, and we're just gonna talk about it really quick about what I was looking at and then what I did. So this is essentially the job description that I had to work with here. And if you want, you can go ahead and pause it and see from top to bottom what all I had to cover. But this is what I pulled from essentially. So, if they were to ask me, do I have, recognizable experience in a Cisco/Meraki based network environment? To tell the absolute truth, no, not really. But in this case scenario, I said that I have been around them because that's what we used at the previous institution that I worked at. And then also my current one that we worked at is Cisco environments. And then I went on and told them that, I've been inside a network closet, I've activated an Ethernet port, which I have done before, and I am familiar with that. And then, if maybe they're not too happy with that answer, or if you want to add on to that, let them know that you have heard of something like Cisco and you're actually planning to take this CCNA. Give them a reason after they ask you the question about, do you understand X? And if you don't quite understand it, give them something to work with, as in, no, I'm not quite understanding it. I actually would love to learn more about it. I'm looking into X's certifications so I can better understand. Or I've already started looking at X's certifications and plan on buying one by the end of this month. So you got your 6 or your 7 keywords that you pulled out of your job description. What you do is you go onto Google or you go onto the Reddit page and then hit that explain like I'm 5 VoIP, explain like I'm 5 power over Ethernet, explain like I'm 5 Cisco networking. Whatever you pulled, research your heart out up until that interview, because whether you're prepared or not, if they ask you about it, they're gonna appreciate someone who gave an effort in answering rather than someone who's like, no, I don't know anything about Cisco. No, I don't know anything about VoIP, and I didn't really research anything, or I haven't been around that type of environment. That's another thing. If you've been around a Cisco environment, around VoIP, around whatever you're pulling from the job description, absolutely tell them and milk them about how you were involved in that and what you did, and did you learn it further, or did you understand it, or, those kinds of concepts. Okay, so I kind of jumped the gun a little bit and explained both number 4 and number 3 in that previous one. Number 4 was don't be someone that you're not, be truthful with your experience and what you do know. If they ask you about VoIP, voice over internet protocol, and you don't know anything, say that you're not too familiar with it, and then like I said before, that you plan on researching it, or you do plan on getting into it. Because if you haven't researched it and you say that you know it and then they ask you a VoIP question, good luck to you. And then number 3 was prepare to tell them stories that relate to what they're looking for. So that goes back to what I just said, where if you're around those environments that you pull from the keywords, let them know, articulate your stories, and then when you're going to have an interview with them, even if they don't ask you the question, somehow bring that up within the flow of the interview. I'll be just like, oh yeah, actually, our network admin was on vacation for a whole month and our internet exploded 2 weeks in, and I actually had to work with our third-party vendor. If that's what you did, and if you did do something like that and you saved the day while your network admin was out, and you're applying for a network admin job, let them know. They'll love that. Alright, number 2. So number 2, I think, is actually pretty important now that I'm ready to go for it. And it is, have people that are going to be really good references for you. So why is this important? Because let's say you get in that interview stage and you absolutely rock it. You rock their socks off. You tell them everything that they wanted to hear. And, they're considering you, and then they're gonna, call you back in the interview process, maybe be a part 2 or maybe hire you on the spot. Yada, yada, yada. Well, the next thing they're going to do is probably call up your references, because let's say, for me, for example, all right, this kid did really well. He answered everything we wanted to, and he's potentially really good. But let's go ahead and call him up at his previous job he worked and see if he's telling the truth, everything that he's told us, or let's see what his coworkers think of him. And again, those first impressions are really, really, really important. So you want the people that they're going to call if they require references to, one, have faith that they already know that you could do the job that you are applying for right now, but also, two, when they hype you up in a way where, like you did in the interview, and you tell them stories. So they want to be like, oh yeah, I was that network admin that he was talking about. I was gone for a month, and then Ken took the helm and took care of it by the time I came back. And there you go. That confirms the story you tell them. That gives you a glowing reference that you can then negotiate for salary for, because they've confirmed that what you said is true and what you understand to be true. And everyone's happy. Hooray. And we finally made it to number 1, which I said earlier was, in my opinion, the most important thing that I did, and my point to why I think I got hired, and that was being passionate and definitely being coachable. So, especially in organizations where they're looking at having a young team, or they have the time and the resources to train people long term, they want to find those people who they think they can coach, who they think will learn this stuff quickly and pick up the skills needed to succeed and go on about what they need to do. And this opinion might have some controversy to it, because, in today's society, there are definitely people that do just go into work because it's a job, and they think the company doesn't really give a crap about them at the end of the day, and they're replaceable. And to a certain extent, I see their point of view, but still, in maybe like smaller organizations, like higher ed, kind of what I'm getting into, where the IT department is small, and you're going to be really close to your team, I think they would generally pick someone who has a pure interest in growing in the field and learning their institution and the way they do things, rather than picking someone who doesn't really know anything about it and they don't really want to know anything about it. They just kind of know the bare minimums, and then as soon as they get a chance to move on, they're going to. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's not what they're into, but if you were that recruiter and you had to pick between the two, who would you pick? But I mean, that's just my... But I mean, you never know. It's a very cruel world out there, and sometimes it is just very luck-based on whether or not you do land your job. But I do think that you can kind of control that luck to a certain extent, depending how much you prepare and how you craft your resume and what you do leading up. And those 6 things that I just pulled from are what I think made me get lucky and land this position with no educational background and with a little bit of IT experience and help desk and field work. So, hopefully out of those 6, you're able to pull something from it. Or if maybe you did land a pretty good dream job and you're just scavenging over some IT videos and you have some advice to give that wasn't on here, let the people know, because I know I certainly need to know, because I'm only 24 and this is a junior role, and I'm not planning on stopping here, honestly. I'm going to be learning a lot, but I definitely want to keep on growing. So I think that's the whole point of this channel, honestly, is to just kind of start here, give a little story of where I'm at, try to give any advice that I can give, but also kind of just expand any IT knowledge that I can and have this be a good hub and a good community for people to come to. So if that's something you're interested in, then consider subscribing. And like I said, if you have some advice, drop it in the comments section below and let us know. Anyway, thank you guys so much if you've tuned into the video and you've stayed this long, and I hope you have a good New Year's. See ya.